Welcome to FIRE, BlackPressUSA's Fireside Chat. Today, we have Congressman G. Butterfield, a lifelong resident of Eastern North Carolina. He graduated from college and law school at North Carolina Central University in Durham. And after earning his law degree, Congressman Butterfield founded a law practice in Wilson and served the community in that capacity for 13 years. He is best known for his successful litigation of voting rights, cases that resulted in the election of African-American officials throughout Eastern North Carolina. He retired from the judiciary after 15 years of service and successfully ran for Congress, where he is a champion of affordable health care, education, investments in rural communities, veterans, renewable energies, and federal programs that support low-income and middle-class Americans. Congressman Butterfield continues his long fight for civil rights and justice, serving in the Democratic leadership as Chief Deputy Whip, and he is the past chair of the CBC. Today, we got two homeboys from North Carolina, our esteemed President and CEO, Dr. Benjamin Chavis, and of course, Congressman G. Butterfield. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank
you very much. Congressman Butterfield, thank you so much for joining us. And the Black Press of America, we're 193 years old this year, 2020. And certainly as we prepare to get out to vote, I note that the Democratic National Convention starts tonight. You're one of the leaders of the Congressional Black Caucus and of the Democratic Party. What is your outlook, Congressman Butterfield, on the importance of the Black vote in 2020?
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Chavis. And let me say good morning to all of you. And thank you so very much for allowing me to come on and speak to your listeners and viewers. You are to be commended for the incredible work that you are doing and have done for the last 100 plus years. Anyone who doesn't know anything about NNPA, I would not tell anyone that you don't know. Just go online when you finish listening to the program today and research the rich history of NNPA and what it has meant to the empowerment of Black America. I think you would be impressed. So thank you to Brother Norm. Thank you to Stacey Brown and to just everyone who's listening. We have so much to talk about today. I don't know what the time constraints are, but as an elected official and policymaker, I could just ramble for hours about what is happening in this country, what is not happening, and but I want to be respectful of your time and just try to distill it to just two or three ideas. But first of all, we are still in the middle of the pandemic. I hope and pray that all of you are safe and well. Please continue to take care of yourself and your families and your friends because the pandemic continues to rage all across America. There are a few states that are moving in the right direction, but so many of our states are continuing to see increases in hospitalizations and even deaths. And so you must really be sure that you take care of yourself. We are seeing video footage now of students going back to college and how they are having, these reunion parties and campus parties and all of the other things that college students do, but it's not healthy. It's not healthy even with a mask. And so please take care of yourself and your families. We've been legislating on the pandemic. The coronavirus has presented a huge problem for the world. And so we are dealing with it in America. President Trump did not take it seriously in the beginning. He said that it would be gone in a few days, that only 1 or 2 people had it, and it just kind of dismissed the seriousness of the pandemic. And he continues to dismiss the seriousness of it. But we in Congress, particularly in the House of Representatives, we are right on top of it. The Democrats in the House have passed legislation first, the HEROES Act, the CARES Act was our first bill. We passed that. It ended up being some $3 trillion, providing enhanced unemployment, providing $1,200 to individuals making less than $75,000 a year. We invest in a vaccine, invest in PPEs and all of the other things that our healthcare community needs. And we've done so much more. We provided a PPP program, a Paycheck Protection Program, to give small businesses, even large businesses, the capital so that they will not have to lay off their employees and make them go without. And so we're very proud of what we've done thus far. It didn't start off being bipartisan, but at the end of the day, Republicans came along joined us at the last minute, and we did pass the legislation, and the president did sign it into law. But now we are continuing to face the emergency of the coronavirus, and so now we've passed another bill called the HEROES Act. In HEROES, we want to do even more, and Republicans have pushed back on us tremendously. We want to give money to state and local governments, to school boards, and the like, who are facing challenges. You know, state and local governments have to have a balanced budget. And if they cannot balance their budget, if they lose money, lose revenue like they're doing right now, then they have an unbalanced budget. And so we've got to help our states and local communities, particularly small communities like Oxford, North Carolina, where my friend Dr. Ben Chavis originated, and his family is still there. Cities and towns like that are beginning to feel the effects of the coronavirus. So we need to give them money, much needed capital, in order to keep the lights on and to keep people working. And so we passed it 3 months ago in the House of Representatives, but that legislation now lays on the table in the Senate. Part of the HEROES Act was giving money to post offices. Our Postal Service has been facing economic challenges now for years. The Republican Congress years ago, back in 2006, required them to put an enormous amount of money in reserve to take care of the so-called pension problem in later years. Well, the post office already had budgeted for pension protection, but the Republican Congress made them lay aside money, operating capital, if you will, for future pensions. And because of that, post offices have been underwater and struggling to survive. But now the post office is being called upon to handle a large volume of mail because so many voters are going to be voting by mail in the next election. And so we need to not only help post office with their historical shortfall of capital, but also need to give them the resources so that they can handle the current volume of mail that is sure to come. We are facing the most consequential election of our lifetime. That doesn't come as a surprise to anyone. We are facing a huge election on November the 3rd. And as I say to people here in my congressional district and all across the country, anyone who's willing to listen, we've got to have, ladies and gentlemen, a 100% turnout in this election. We cannot continue with another 4 years of Donald Trump. Not just Donald Trump, he is one man, but he's created a movement called Trumpism. The Republican Party now is no more. It is now the party of Trump. That's not political talk on my part. That is real. Donald Trump has somehow manipulated and taken a chokehold, if you will, on the Republican Party, and now it is Trumpism, and they do not have the best interests of the African-American community in mind. They don't have the best interests of hardworking middle-class Americans in mind. It is about Donald Trump and his family's empire and his wealth, his future wealth, and about taking care of his friends. And so we've got to turn out on November the 3rd. I saw a statistic the other day that was very troubling. I knew that the Senate was not passing the legislation passed by the Democratic House, but I didn't have a full appreciation for the volume of judges, federal judges that are being approved by the United States Senate that have been recommended by Donald Trump. We are nearing 300 federal judges under the Trump administration who have been appointed by Donald Trump. They need to be confirmed by the Senate, and nearly 300 have been confirmed. That's what they've been doing with their time. They have not been doing anything to protect American people or American businesses or trying to get people healthy and creating a vaccine. What they've been doing is stacking the courts with ultra right-wing conservative white judges who are young, who will be serving for a lifetime. Remember, judicial appointments, federal judicial appointments are lifetime appointments. And so if a 40-year-old white conservative right-wing judge goes on the bench at age 40, he or she will then have some 40 plus years to wreak havoc in the federal judiciary. And so we have the ability to stop that. We have the ability to retire Donald Trump. and send him back to wherever he came from. But we will only be able to do that with a large turnout on election day. Now, let me talk about battleground. We hear the word battleground from time to time. There are 6 battleground states in the country. There are really more, but for planning purposes, we are looking at 6 battleground states. There are Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. You know why those 3? Because we thought we had those in the bag in 2016, but we did not. We lost Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania by 77,000 votes collectively. And because of that, Donald Trump was able to get the electoral votes from those 3 states. Hillary Clinton did not get those votes, which meant that Donald Trump won the Electoral College, even though Democrats won the presidency by some 2 million popular votes. The electoral votes went to Donald Trump because of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Remember that, because of 3 states. And in those 3 states, it was only 77,000 votes separating Donald Trump from Hillary Clinton. And so we've got to win those 3 states. We're spending a lot of time, a lot of resources in those 3 states to make sure that we can recapture them. But added to that, we've added 3 more states. Arizona, which we think is in play, Florida, and my home state of North Carolina, Dr. Chavis's home state of North Carolina. And so we have the 3 old states and the 3 new states that we've combined to 6 battleground states for the presidential election. And we've got to win 3 of those 6. And so we're not taking the polling data for granted. The polling data shows that Biden-Harris, and I want to talk about Harris in just a few moments when I close, but we are not taking these states for granted, even though the polling suggests that the Biden-Harris ticket is up in most of those states. We've got to get out here and vote. Now, here's the problem with the mail-in voting. And let me tell my staff to give me a wink and a nod when I get ready to. When I'm
you already given us a lot to unpack, Congressman.
All right. Well, let me make a final point about the post office, because that is the headlines this week. Here's the deal. There are 2 types of mail-in ballots. One ballot is universal voting, where the state sends ballots to every voter. Democrat, Republican, Independent. Every voter gets a ballot without asking for it. The other is vote by mail by absentee. That voter has to request a ballot. So Democrats are suggesting and requesting funds to give to the states so they can implement a universal mailing system. 9 states already have it. And so Republicans are pushing back on it. Donald Trump says that this is the way elections are stolen. He knows he's going to win this election. He's trying to set the table to make a case when he loses that the election was stolen from him. And so what he's done is ask the post office to slow down on their mail procedures, to remove boxes and to do away with some of the sorting machines and stop paying overtime hours and all of that to put a chilling effect on the post office. And so we go back to Washington on Saturday, and we're going to deal with this, and we're going to demand that we have a fair, open, and accessible election. Kamala Harris is on the ticket. We are so excited about Kamala. She's my friend. She's my colleague, Congressional Black Caucus member. She is very capable of being the running mate for Joe Biden. And guess what? She will be very capable of occupying the Oval Office if the occasion arises. She's, prepared to do the work, and I'm ready to get her elected, and I hope you are as well.
Again, thank you so much for that, Congressman. Dr. Chavis?
Yes. Well, thank you. Listen, Congressman G.K. Butterfield is not only eloquent, he hit all of the points. And I think I want to go to these 6 battleground states. In each of those 6 states, the Black vote, Congressman Butterfield, is so key, so important. And I'm concerned because, as you know, COVID-19 has had a disproportionate negative impact on Blacks and Latinos, particularly in these 6 states. So I think we're going to have to make sure, in order to get a record voter turnout, we're going to have to do a lot in those 6 states. First, to keep people safe, keep people healthy, but also to override some of these voter suppression tactics. I know in my home state, our home state of North Carolina, we caught some of the people red-handed, I should say white-handed, with stuffing votes, and they had to have a new election because of what the Republicans were doing in North Carolina. Can you speak, Congressman Butterfield, what else can we do to make sure that we can overcome some of these voter suppression tactics in the 6 battleground states?
Well, I'm not confident, Dr. Chavis, that Congress is going to be able to pass. I know we can pass it in the House. I'm not confident that we are going to be able to pass a bill allowing for universal mail-in voting. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think so, because we certainly can pass it in the Democratic House, and we will. We have already done it, but I'm not sure it's going to pass the Senate. Except that Donald Trump sent a very interesting message over the weekend in one of his crazy interviews that he would be willing to give us the money for that if he could get his agenda passed. Lord knows what his agenda is that he's talking about, but maybe we will find out more this week. But I don't think we're going to get universal voting. So the only 3 things that are left on the table are absentee voting. That's a system where the voter must take the initiative to request a ballot. In some states, it is a no excuse absentee ballot. You don't have to give an excuse. Or if you give an excuse, it can be that you are fearful of getting sick from the pandemic, but you send in your request for absentee ballot. In North Carolina, it is very liberal, if you will, if I could use that word, to get a ballot. You don't have to give an excuse. You can get the form online. You can fill it out. A near relative can take it down to the Board of Elections, or you can take it to the Board of Elections. And starting on September 1st, you will be actually able online to request an absentee ballot. When the ballot comes back to you, you can fill it out and then send it back by the mail if you're not comfortable with the mail. And I can understand why you would not be comfortable with the mail. You can then give it to a family member to take it down to the Board of Elections and simply drop it into a container, or take it to an early voting site if your state has early voting, and most states do, and drop it into the early voting site. That is an absentee ballot method of election. The second method of election is voting early. 1 or 2 states do not have early voting. I'm very disappointed about that. I forgot what the states are, but I went to some state campaigning for Joe Biden and found out the state didn't even have early voting. A shame on them. But anyway, most states do. And so early voting is where there's a 10-day window or an 8-day window that will open up in October. My state will be October 15th through the 31st. But voters can go down to 3 or 4 early voting locations. They can go as early as 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, or as late as 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And the whole idea is to spread it out so that there won't be many people in the voting enclosure when you vote, and you can go in there and vote safely. The states are guaranteeing that the poll workers will properly have PPE equipment. They will be masked, and they will have gloves and plexiglass. And when they give you a pen to use to vote, you can bring the pen home with you. Nobody else will use the pen in the future. And so that's the second way of voting. The third way is the way we've always done it. That is to get up on November the 3rd and get dressed and go down to the polling location and stand in line 6 feet apart, and just with your mask on, and wait for your turn to walk in and to cast your ballot. That is an in-person method of voting. So voters have 3 choices, but it is critically important in all of our states, not just the 6 battleground states. Yes, we're putting extra emphasis on the 6 battlegrounds, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Carolina, Florida, and Arizona. Yes, we're putting extra emphasis on those, but you must also know that there are other states that are in play as well. Georgia, of all places, don't you think that Georgia is not in play? because Reverend Dr. Warnock, who's a pastor at Ebenezer in Atlanta, is our Democratic nominee for a seat there in said Alabama and Georgia. And also we have another Senate race in Georgia. We have 2 Senate races in Georgia. And so there's going to be a large turnout in the state of Georgia. And we think that that will play very well for Democrats to put Georgia in play. And then we have other states. I will mention Mississippi. No one thinks of Mississippi when they think of competitive states. But we have a Senate race, Mike Espy over in Mississippi, who is campaigning very hard and getting the attention of not just Democrats, but also independent voters and a handful of never Trump voters, people who have just had it with Donald Trump. And so, yes, it is critical. The data is trending in our direction. Over the weekend, Donald Trump came out with a flyer that is absolutely disgusting. Even though he says that he's opposed to mail-in voting, he puts out a flyer this weekend and sends it to every Republican household, urging them to vote by mail. What hypocrisy are we seeing there? And so we're gonna be in a good position, but we've got to have a 100% turnout. You hear me, my friends? I'm not saying 99, 95, 90, or 80. I'm saying we've got to have a 100% turnout today. I was listening to Steve Harvey this morning talk about it. Yes, 100% turnout. That's the way we're going to change the direction of this country. Yes, that's the way we're going to evict Donald Trump and bring in a new progressive agenda. While I'm talking about the Democratic agenda, let me just throw one thing out at you. You know, Dr. Chavis and I have been involved in politics since 1968. He and I got started about the same time on Granville Street in Oxford, North Carolina. Let me tell you, we have never seen a presidential candidate as we have in Joe Biden. And Barack Obama is a dear friend of mine. I love him dearly. He's one of the greatest presidents that America has ever seen before. But I submit to you that Joe Biden will exceed the accomplishments of every president in American history. That includes Abraham Lincoln and Barack Obama. Why? Because he knows without question that the Black vote has sealed the deal for his nomination. Jim Clyburn down in South Carolina. Joe Biden was on the rough side of the mountain. He was about to fall any day. And it was Jim Clyburn who picked him up and got him victorious in South Carolina. Because of that, it began to cascade all across the country. Joe Biden knows that he is indebted to the African-American community. That's why he vetted 12 women for his vice presidential running mate, and 6 of the 12 were African-American women. 3 of those among the Congressional Black Caucus, Karen Bass, Kamala Harris, and Val Demings from Florida. He gets it, and not only has he talked the talk, but Joe Biden has walked the walk. If you don't believe me, go online and look at his white paper that he published, Lift Every Voice and Sing, and look at the details that he's willing to put on paper. And so past presidential candidates have given us lip service, and most of the lip service has become reality. But when you put something on paper, it really, really makes a difference. And so I'm excited about the future of our country. A Biden-Harris ticket is going to be phenomenal, and they know from whence they came. It is the African-American vote, in particular African-American women who have voted in disproportionate and historic numbers. And if you would look around and see the energy that we are now seeing among the Divine Nine, fraternities and sororities, beginning with AKAs, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, the sorority that Kamala Harris belongs to. If you look at the energy that has been created, you're going to see an army of field workers and volunteers like you've never seen before. And then you add to that our faith community and our Masonic groups and our American Legion post and veteran service organizations. When you put all of these groups together, you're going to see a movement unseen by this country in its history.
Congressman, we can't help but to agree with you the impact Jim Clyburn's endorsement had. But I submit to you that one day before that endorsement, that really, we feel, really jump-started the Biden campaign in the right insurrection, he sat down with your great friend, Dr. Chavis, for a live interview with the Black Press. And the next day, Clyburn's endorsement came, and he has never looked back. And speaking of voting rights, Congressman, we know we recently lost John Lewis. Can you talk a little bit about your relationship with John Lewis and what John Lewis meant to Congress, to America, and to voting rights?
Well, let me take your first point first. We, among African American leaders in this country, we talk to each other. Occasionally we disagree, but more often than not, we completely agree and we coordinate our efforts. Dr. Chavis knew the leaning of Jim Clyburn. He knew the rest of us in the Congressional Black Caucus where we were. And we knew that he was meeting, that Dr. Chavis was meeting with Joe Biden, and we knew pretty much what promises that NNPA was going to try to elicit from the nominee. We each knew what the other was doing.
That's right.
That's why the Biden campaign is now making tremendous media buys, not just from Black radio, but also from Black print. Because they understand the importance of investing in the Black media. With respect to John Lewis, I don't even know where to begin on John Lewis. It just breaks my heart every time I think about it. Just think about someone in your family or friend of yours that you talk to almost every day of your life, and all of a sudden they're gone. And that's where I am with John Lewis. John Lewis we sat together on the House floor, and for 16 long years, not a legislative day went by that I did not have a personal, in-depth, confidential conversation with John Lewis. Not every day was confidential, but more often than not, we got into each other's brains. I knew how this man was thinking. I remember when he was first diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and when he started to lose weight, and I know what was going on in his life, but I miss him dearly. He knew the end was coming. He knew it was coming, and he prepared himself for it. John Lewis was not a politician. I don't want anyone to really catalog him as a politician. He was a statesman. He was a leader of leaders. He was a principal leader. And you know what? We have our Democratic Caucus meetings every Tuesday. Congressional Black Caucus meetings every Wednesday, and politicians are used to talking when other people are talking. Let me tell you something. When my brother John Lewis walked up and took the microphone, crickets, the whole room hushed. And I can tell you that he will be missed. I will just give you just one anecdote about two that come to mind very quickly about John Lewis. Number one, during the Obamacare debate, we were reported by the Capitol Police and Sergeant at Arms that there were several thousand Tea Party members standing outside of the Capitol, angry, waiting for us to exit the Capitol, go back to our offices. Capitol Police recommended that we go underground, take the subway. We have a little train underground that we don't have to go outside. Recommended that we do that. Even John Lewis's chief of staff, Michael Collins, we love him dearly. He's like a son. Even Michael came and said, Congressman, members, I think you really need to go back underground. We cannot guarantee your safety on the Capitol Plaza. John Lewis looked at me. I looked at him. We looked at Emmanuel Cleaver. Emmanuel Cleaver looked back at Andre Carson from Indiana, and we said, let's do it. Our forefathers and mothers did it. Yeah, we did it during the movement. Let's go out there and do it. And we stepped out on those Capitol steps. The Capitol Police couldn't manage the crowd effectively. And we walked through that crowd with our heads hung high. Someone spat on Emmanuel Cleaver. Cleaver wiped it off with his face. I cannot tell you the insults, but they were many. And we walked back to our office building. And then when the police wanted to press charges, it was John Lewis and Emmanuel Cleaver who said, no, we're not going to press charges. The other thing that comes to my mind is that one day John Lewis came on the floor. I've never said this publicly, but I don't mind doing it. Came on the floor one day and said to me, and we had names for each other. I call him John. Sometimes I say John Roberts. Sometimes as we do in the hood, the boy from Troy. Sometimes I call him Bruh John. I had all kinds of names for John Lewis, but one day he came on the floor with his head down and he said, I'm a little embarrassed. I said, what you embarrassed about, John Robert? He said, I haven't publicly endorsed Barack Obama. He said, Bill and Hillary Clinton are friends of mine, and I've been leaning toward Bill and Hillary, and because of my longstanding relationship, but I cannot live with myself. I cannot live with myself. I've got to support Barack Obama, and I want him to know it. Can you help me? And I was a rookie congressman at the time. I've been in Congress back then for 4 years. I didn't have the juice that I may have today. And I said, why are you telling me this? He said, well, can you get the word to Barack Obama? I said, yes, I can. I've got sources. But have you told anybody else? And he said, no, you're the first one I've told. But brother, I've got to get this done. Long story short, he authorized me to get on the telephone. I walked out in the hallway of the Capitol. I called the Obama campaign. They put Barack on the phone, Senator Obama on the phone at the time. I told him I was with John Lewis, and if he would call him in 15 minutes when he returned to the office, I was confident that he would get another endorsement. And it happened. John Lewis was so relieved. Barack Obama was so appreciative, and had one other story, but I ran out of time. If you want me to, I will deal with it, but let's go on to something else.
Well, those stories are rich. Thank you for sharing those true stories with the Black press. As we listen to you over the last 30 minutes, Congressman Butterfield, there's something very, very authentic, not only about your voice, your message, but also your presence. I think you continue to well represent North Carolina, the congressional district, but also I would say that Black America is well served by having you in the Congress of the United States. And we look forward to mobilizing to get out to vote GOTV. And we want to stay in touch. This is our touch base with you. We know that we're out of time, but States, I'll let you close out. If you want to get one quick question into Congressman Butterfield, and then we will call it a day. But I just want to personally thank him on behalf of the Black Press of America for his continuing strong freedom-fighting leadership.
Yeah, and I will only add to that, Congressman, that send our best, the Black Press's best, to your daughter, Alicia, and what she's doing with the Grammys. She's got a great new position there, and we look forward to speaking with her on this program as well, Congressman. We really appreciate you. We appreciate your time. Join us later today at 4 o'clock. We will have the singer, Regina Bell, the legendary singer, Regina Bell. And tomorrow we have another legend, Jermaine Dupri, will join us at 3 o'clock tomorrow. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thank you, Congressman.
Can I throw in 30 seconds before we leave?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay, the Congressional Black Caucus would be really upset if I didn't say this today. Do you know that we have 4 African Americans who are nominees for the U.S. Senate? Warnock in Georgia, Espy, Mississippi, Janie Harrison in South Carolina, Marquita Bradshaw in Tennessee. And guess what? We have 14 who are Democratic nominees for the House of Representatives. 6 of those have been declared to be in very, very competitive districts. We call them red to blue candidates. And so you can conceivably see the Congressional Black Caucus membership grow from 55 to 65 in the 117th Congress. Please watch it, because this is a big deal. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We will be following it, and certainly we're going to do our part. We pledge to you to get a record, like you say, 100%, not 90%, 100% Black voter turnout 2020.
Well, thanks, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Chavis, of course, as always, and Congressman G.K. Butterfield from the great state of North Carolina. Everyone stay safe and stay well.
Thank you.
Peace. God bless.